Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today we're back. We're back in Louisiana. This is going to be The Truth in This Art beyond New Orleans. Today, I am just super psyched to bring on my guest. Let's just tap into this conversation. My guest is a 4-time finalist for the James Beard Best Chef in the South and Bravo TV's Top Chef Season 13 fan favorite. He's the owner and chef of Toups Meatery in New Orleans, Louisiana, and the author of the New York Times Best Cookbooks of Fall, Chasing the Gator, Isaac Toups, and the new Cajun cooking. Please join me in welcoming Chef Isaac Toups. Welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So, welcome to The Truth in This Art. I'm your host, Rob Lee, and today I have the privilege of being in the place to be. I'm in Toups Meatery.
This is Toups Meatery. Been here 10 years this April, and through thick and thin, through fire and brimstone and hurricanes and COVID, we have lasted. We have outwitted the witty.
I guess I could just go with it. Welcome, Chef Isaac Toups.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and making the time for us, and freshly shaved and bearded.
Well, that just for you, because it's a podcast. I want to make sure I look beautiful, but just for you.
I did the same thing for you. That's what we're trying to match on. So, I find in starting out this podcast, I like to kind of work my way into things by having folks revisit some of their origins, why they got started. Because I think the why is important, right? So, tell me about some of your early creative culinary interests and ultimately how some of those have led to where you're at now.
I mean, it all starts in your mother's kitchen. I think that's what 99% of us chefs do. Mother, our fathers, or our grandmother's kitchen. And excuse me 1 second. Hey, doing a podcast here, guys.
What?
Doing a podcast here, guys.
You're inside a restaurant.
I think it all starts with our mother's or our grandmother's kitchen, and we get this this fire in our life, and literally it was like, Mom, I'm hungry, and Mom handed me a skillet and some eggs, and I'm frying eggs where I can just see in it, and it starts there, and then in Cajun country, everybody cooks. Yeah. Mother, father, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody cooks, and you either get it or you don't, and you're always either helping fetch water for the crawfish, or help clean the ducks you killed. And then a lot of people just can cook, but don't take it professionally, or don't take it to have this real fire of it. Where I had the fire, I was looking through my mother's cookbooks. I was making beef Wellington at 12. I was one of those guys who's like, hey, yeah, my friend can't come over because I got to finish the Wellington first to get it out the oven. We'll carve it, and then we'll go play with sticks and on BMXs. So I just love to eat, and I love to cook, and that just kind of coalesced together. My father, he's a very adventurous man. Yeah. So when the very first sushi restaurant came out in small town Louisiana, we had to go, and we were like, oh God, I hope it's good, because my father's going to make us eat it, and my father's going to make us eat anchovies and kimchi, and at first he had to force it, but then it becomes like, oh God, I love this, and I'm always chasing those flavors and chasing that new restaurant. We're going. I can't get this cuisine. I'm going to go to that country and find it. And I was like, oh, I tasted something at my friend's restaurant. I called my friend up. I was like, what's in this? He's like, shrimp paste. What is that? I'll go buy some. Never mind. So the fire is just it rages in me, and I love that, and I love to eat more than I cook. But we're cooking, but you got to cook it if you want to eat it. Right. So that's where it's kind of, long story short, is where it came from.
No, I love that, and I think and I like that you answered that other sub question in there. What was your first time in the kitchen? So that's great as well. And I'm a person that I want to have the authentic version, right? I want to have as close to it. So I'm a person that enjoys to eat as well. So in coming down here, I'm like, all right, there's a lot of imitation shrimp and grits in Baltimore. And I was like, look, I get it, but it's not quite it. I was like, where's the swine? Where's the pig? And so, as I was saying before we got started, that's why coming down here is regenerative for me. It's like I'm kind of getting that sort of real thing. There are different interpretations, obviously, down here, but at least it's of the place, So, when did you arrive at this sort of realization, this idea that you wanted to become a chef? Because a lot of people like cook, they go into it and they're like, I really love this, but chef is a different thing, right? So talk about that.
You can be a good cook and you can be a chef. There are two different things. You can be a great cook at your house, but chef means boss. It means, run your own kitchen, run your own food establishment. So you can't be a chef at your house, but you can be a chef of a food truck. And those definitions are kind of willy-nilly. There's no certification. People just ask me all the time, what's it take to be a chef? I say, well, put on a chef coat and get a bunch of yahoos to call you chef. On the other end of that, where I came into it, I was literally job hopping after the college try. I went to a semester of college and realized that, well, high school would kick my ass. I don't know why college would be any different. So I'm job hopping, literally job hopping. This time I'm cooking all the time. I'm still cooking. Yeah. And I grew up cooking, but I never put the two and two together to do it professionally. So I didn't get into cooking until I was 20, 21. Job hopping. I worked at a TV station where I was in charge at night. Big disaster. I worked for a printing company with my brother. I worked in my father's dental office making dentures and a bunch of little jobs, and cooking, let me go try that. Literally just whatever job. Yeah. I'll go get that. And it was kind of a tourist trap, honestly, but we were frying food and making soups from bases, but I fell in love with it hit me. 2 weeks before that, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Yeah. And 2 weeks later, I'm cooking. Yay! I found it. Aha! I want to do this rest of my life. I want to be a chef. I want to have my own restaurant. I want to write a cookbook. It all hit me all at once. These illusions of grandeur just slapped me in the face. I'm like, this is it.
that is wonderful. And you touched on it earlier, just sort of the perseverance and having this space being around as long as it has, despite all of the things that have happened, COVID, storms, all of the stuff, right? So talk about incorporating some of your passions into this. I read about America's Wetlands, and talk about incorporating that in your food philosophy, your menu, your approach to doing what you do.
Well, that's a multi-tiered question. I'll see if I can tackle it all at once. I always strive to be as local as possible. We have such a bounty around here. There's no reason to travel too far out the land to get what you need. In Louisiana, we got pigs, we have crawfish, we got rice. All grows natural. We have a bounty of food and whatnot that we can just harvest, we can just get. We've got the Mississippi River, we got Lake Pontchartrain, we got the mighty Gulf of Mexico and whatnot. We have plains, we have swamps. So everything in our grasp we have here, we can utilize, and I always wanted to use that. I see a lot of people with, there's nothing wrong with scallops, and there's nothing wrong with salmon, and there's nothing wrong with East and West Coast fish and produce and whatnot, but we have it right here. Sure. So at the meatery, the focus was always as local as possible. Now, sometimes that doesn't always work out. I'm not sure where my all-purpose flour comes from. The salt could be milled from somewhere else, but 90%, 95%, I'd say the proteins all come from within 100 miles of here. And that makes me feel good, because it's all about celebrating the localness, but it's also about preservation. Our fishes are sourced. Our fishes are sourced reasonably. What am I trying to say?
Responsibly?
Responsibly. Thank you, boy. Confusing my R words here. And that's very important, because otherwise we'd have every Cajun with a gun back at the back of the restaurant going, hey, I killed half the population of the deer. You want to buy it? And that's why we have wildlife and fisheries, and that's why you have to have those regulations, because you can use as much as you want, but if it's not there next year, we're not going to have any of it, which kind of brings a round trip to the conservation efforts I try to help out with, the coastal restoration of the wetlands. I think we lose a football field a day, and that's just nuts. I didn't know we had that much to lose. It doesn't grow back that fast. You can lose it, but it doesn't come back. And long story short, I can't speak for all the scientists and the engineers, but we need to get all the sediment back and rearrange it. Yeah. Rearranging that sediment is going to transfer a lot of oyster beds and a lot of shrimping beds, which have been around for decades and decades, and it's going to disrupt the farmers. Well, that's not cool either. Yeah. We can't disrupt the farmers, but if we don't disrupt those beds, then nobody's going to have anything in several years. Yeah. So it's kind of this, what I do is I kind of bridge the gap, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a politician coming in and going, hey, you have to move, I don't care how long you've been here. Yeah. Where if I was an owner, I'd be like, to heck with you. Yeah, I'm not doing this. So I bridge the gap going, hey, look, I'm one of you. I'm born and raised in Cajun country. I've swam in these waters and fished these waters my whole life. I buy your product. I'm the buyer. We have to come to have a tete-to-tete or a head-to-head to come up with a solution that helps everybody. Let's get these fishermen some money to move. Yeah. Let's give them some incentives. Let's make sure they're protected and whatnot, because I think we can do it all. The problem is, you get politicians and scientists mixed together, and they don't always agree with what to do. Fucking politicians.
I like that endpoint right there. I like that. But yeah, I think it's important when you have a place and you're of the place and you're invested in the place and sort of that preservation sort of angle. And I always get into conversations around culture, and food is obviously a big part of the culture in New Orleans, but in the state, obviously. So being able to preserve that and maintain, like, this is a part of this dish, and if we don't have this part of the land anymore, then this dish is now changed, and so that part of culture changed. Everything is connected in that way, I think.
Right.
So you're noted for your creativity. I read something about a little Sazerac and a little pork butt action, crawfish cornbread. We'll be talking later. So to talk about like how you apply like sort of like classic Cajun background and cuisine to like sort of like what new Cajun is, because I hear that as a term that's thrown around in the research, and so talk about that a bit. And I know that the book is part of it, so talk about that, please.
I struggle with the term new Cajun just because, or contemporary Cajun, which is one I prefer, but still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What is new Cajun? I tell people all the time, kind of tongue in cheek, well, it's whatever I make, because I'm always going to have these background Cajun mentalities, these Cajun instincts to make a dark roux, to smother something, to season aggressively with garlic and black pepper, to smoke it, to roast it hard, to use pig product, and to be bold in your face. And maybe it's a big plate of brown. You know what? I'm colorblind. I don't care. It might be ugly, but boy, it's going to taste good. It's going to bring you down to your knees. You're going to eat so much you can leave here with the damn meat sweats.
It's amazing.
So I'm always going to have the Cajun backgrounds in my brain. That does not leave. I don't care what I'm trying to approach. I'm trying to approach a dish that has no Cajun background, but I still want to make it because I want to make it. Yeah. And I don't have these mental rules that say, oh, well, using anchovy in the braise, well, that's not Cajun. I don't think that way. I put the anchovy in the braise and worry about the flavor later. And then my customers go, we don't care what you call this. Yeah. So I might use a Spanish braise on a lamb neck. I might use a South American sauce on my shrimp dish. No one cares. There's a little fish sauce in my crab claw marinade. No one cares because it tastes good, and they know you can get good Cajun food here, but they can also get slightly different stuff that you would close your eyes, you wouldn't be able to tell it wasn't Cajun because it's made with the same sensibilities. And as far as creativity, I am the worst person on the planet for creativity. I really am, but obviously people say I'm creative, and I am, but I'm slow. I'm slow at creativity. It sometimes takes me months to come up with one menu item, but that menu item stays on the menu for 10 years because it's so damn good. So if someone were to come in, and I actually used to do this all the time, it's like, ask chef for an off-the-tasting menu. And I tell the customer, no, you don't want that. You want the things I've been working on for years. It's on the menu, it's labeled. You don't want me to make something a la minute. I suck at this. I know. I did a whole season of Top Chef trying to do this stuff, and good God, I'm glad I made it as far as I did with just my wit, my luck, and my charm, I think. But come up with, so if I want to create a special for Friday, I have the previous Monday, I have to start thinking about it. And a lot of times I'll repeat, and that's okay because it's all good. So I let my chef de cuisine and my sous chefs like, hey, y'all come up with specials, run them by me, and let's do it that way. And once a month I might, hey, I've got an idea. And so creativity, it's a slow process. It cannot be forced. And anytime I try to force it, I just end up upsetting myself.
I think that's interesting. I like how you said in the beginning of like it had the sensibilities. I like that because I run into this on occasion. So my podcast focused in Baltimore, but the goal is arts and culture. So if I go to a different city, naturally, where am I going to go? Oh, that place has good food. That has this going on. That's an interesting place. And in talking with folks, I talked to folks on radio, and I was like, what do you guys think if I go out of Baltimore, if I go out of this? Is this stretching it too far? Am I going to have to explain this? And what I was told was people trust you in your brand of storytelling and your brand facilitating storytelling. So if you're saying, hey, I'm going down to New Orleans to talk with folks, they know that the sensibility is there. They know that this approach is there. They know that this sort of brand and this sensibility is right there in the storytelling.
Right. I've actually kind of a similar thing that I do where I'm using ingredients that Cajuns don't normally use. Sure. So with lamb neck, I already talked about the lamb neck. I used to have to give the lamb neck away. People are like, a lamb neck? I'm not sure. Whoa, hold on. Now, 8-10 years into this business, people are like, oh, what are you selling? Well, Isaac's selling it, so it must be good. And like I would never try that anywhere. I may never try bone marrow or tripe anywhere else or duck hearts for the love of God. Yeah. But like, oh yeah, it's Isaac. Oh, okay. Well, I trust that. Yeah. So yeah. I feel you. It's kind of the same.
Is there an ingredient that in your like experience that you're like, I don't want to work with that at all? Fear is a weird word, right? But that is like, nope, not going to do that. Not going to touch that. Not going to deal with that regardless. Like, because I know it's the creativity thing, right? It's a time thing. But is there an ingredient that comes to mind? You're like, I don't touch that.
Not really. I haven't had the rotted shark from Finland yet, but I probably wouldn't like that. But I mean, I use ferments and I use shrimp paste and crab heads, and I use crab roe, I use bone marrow, duck hearts, chicken gizzards. So I don't have a problem. I can't think of any. You know what? Here's the product, and you're never gonna see this coming. Keep the unripe tomato off my fucking sandwich.
Really?
The unripe tomato. You get a tomato sandwich in December? No, why would you? There's no tomatoes growing. Where are those tomatoes? Keep the fucking unripe tomatoes off my fucking food. Really? You come at me with a good heirloom tomato, ripe, man, put some mayonnaise on that or some white bread and a little salt and pepper, call it a day. And I'm fine with that. But good God, you ever bite into a sandwich? This November tomato sandwich. You lift it open on your burger. What is it? It's a green tomato.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Take it off.
Get it out of here. I mean, I joke about it. I have a buddy that is a forager and mushroom forager, and that's just the climate, right? He's originally like from Florida, so going up, and we talk about me being a food snob, and I'm very much in that sort of like that doesn't belong, and get it out of here. And I think in part, one, like having a lot of interest in like chefs and like listening to what they have to say, because you guys are very specific people.
Yeah, we are.
And I think if this podcast is really neat, the stealing, like, all right, so leave the tomatoes alone.
Leave the tomatoes alone. And it's not that we're picky, it's we're particular. Mm-hmm. And I say that about my food. My food is the same way. Cajun food is not hard. Once I explain it to everybody, I shoot YouTube videos explaining details about roux and gumbo and what that, and a lot of people a lot of times go, that was it? I'm like, that was it. It may seem mystifying to you, and it may seem overly complicated, or we got some gree in the pot, we're doing some sort of voodoo, where no, not really. We're just kind of paying attention to our food and paying attention to what's around us, and we experiment. My gumbo is different from my father's gumbo. It's also different from my mother's gumbo. We kind of take dishes and go our own route. And yes, gumbo has to have dark roux, but all the other ingredients are kind of what you like. I have certain rules about what my gumbo is. I don't mix seafood and land. It's one or the other, and if it's seafood, it's a stew, it's not a gumbo. But these are kind of made up rules. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think flavor and what you like and what you do to it is more important than like observing the actual rules. You might get some hate online, sure, but you get hate online doing Mother Teresa's work. So fuck them.
100%. So talk about your experience working with Emerald.
Working with Emerald, I started my real culinary professionalism at Emerald's Del Monaco in the year 2000, and I had just worked at this little touristy place before that, so I quite literally know nothing professionally about cooking. I was enamored with the whole thing, and I walk in there, and the chef at the time took a gamble on me and put me on fry cook. I was the happiest fry cook you'd ever seen. I'm sitting there when everybody else is like, oh God, I don't want to work fry. I'm sitting there on fry with a smile on my face you could not have beat off. A rubber handle chef knife, a paper chef hat. They gave me a coat rental coat to wear, and with the check pants and the non-slip shoes, and I was going, yay! Happy. I was doing like extra work for everybody. Like everybody go take a break and take a smoke break. I would be there trying to learn how to chop shallots properly. Looking over the pantry, like, ooh, I can't wait to get to pantry. I was the young buck who was just like, this guy's way too excited to be here, and it was. And I shot up through the ranks. I ended up leaving 10 years later, second in command. Helped reopen after Hurricane Katrina. Yep. Helped out with different offsites and whatnot. Almost knocked over Chef Emerald's Picasso one time. And working with Chef Emerald, it was great because even though we didn't get a lot of one-on-one time at first, the first probably 6-7 years, hey Chef Emerald, and after a couple of years you're like, oh, Isaac, and then a little while later, Isaac, hey, what's going on? How's Amanda and whatnot? My wife, and it ended up being Isaac walked me out. There's a weirdo in the back, and I know you have a knife on you, and you look like you take somebody's head off. To doing private events with him, and to this day we still remain friends. He wrote the foreword to my cookbook. Can't think of enough of that. But more importantly, Chef Emerald taught me than any food thing was how to take care of your people. Because Chef Emerald he's going to work you. If you work for Chef Emerald, you're going to work hard. You're going to work long hours. and I'm okay with that. But really, when Hurricane Katrina hit, right off the bat, he wrote his personal checks from his checkbook, made sure we had a place to stay and a job within a week.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he had this emergency system in plan. It worked. He got us all jobs. I went to Orlando. We cooked for a couple months there. We had a place to stay, and when we came back to New Orleans, we all had jobs. If you stayed in the company, we all had jobs. So always remember that. You take care of your people, and I try to hold it. If I take care of all my staff, then they'll take care of the restaurant.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, and it's one of the few secrets that a lot of people who've been in business a long time will never understand is take care of your employees. And your employees like two main things, and the second one is respect, and the first one is money.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's one of those things. It's like, what's the language that we're speaking here? And in times, when I go into the day job or what have you, and I'm like, how do you keep people here? We have it attention rate or what, we lose people, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, why are we losing people? Because you're not paying them what they're worth, or they feel that this is toxic, or this sucks, or whatever.
Right.
And people don't do that actual listening. It's like, yeah, we'll give you guys an extra day off. No.
It's not a pizza party. It's respect, a little creativity on the menu. Right. I recently gained several employees because their previous job, their chef wouldn't let them do specials, put stuff on the menu, and I'm like, do specials, put stuff on the menu. Hey chef, can we do this? I'm like, let me taste it. This is delicious. Let's go. Yeah. They want that, especially chefs. Mm-hmm. Especially when your blue collar work meets creativity, and that's what kitchen work is. Yeah. It starts off as this blue collar work, hard working. You're back there, you're sweating, and then it gets to like craftsman. Well, I'm crafting this dish that I also have to repeat every night. Mm-hmm. And then the artistry takes over, where you think about flavors and textures and ingredients and really how the whole thing will meld. So cooking is one of those jobs where it really does kind of have that whole scape, that whole range of hard sweating work to this wonderful artistry on the other side of it. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. It sometimes can be absolutely fucking stressful.
So I gotta ask, and I should have asked this earlier, but I think I'll ask it now. What's your signature dish?
Oh, I hate that question.
I know.
We all hate that question.
I know,
I'll tell you.
But I gotta ask.
I'll tell you. Signature dish. Let me see. The dish probably here for the third time. I'm going to say the lamb neck, and I'll tell you why. Because I had lamb neck one time, and it was grilled, and I realized that you could buy just a straight up 4 vertebrae lamb neck, and it's only a little bit smaller than like our necks and whatnot, and you get them, and it's like spine on one end and a flap of meat. I'm like, boy, I want to braise that down. Well, what do I want to braise it down in? I want to braise it down in a shitload of red wine and a lot of garlic and some anchovy, because that's very Spanish, and I'll serve it with black-eyed peas. And like I said, when first time I sold it, could not give one away. Yeah. I'd give one away, they send it back. I'm like, no, free. And like, we don't want to try it. I had people say, chef, what kind of the lamb neck is it? I'm like, I had to literally put my hand on my neck and go like, neck, the actual neck. And it took people a long time, but I stayed true to myself. I was like, no, it's going to stay on the menu. We'll cook a couple a week. We'll keep the rest frozen. We'll take them out, cook them as go. And it took me a long time for them to actually sell, and now they sell great. And now people trust me. So I said that lamb neck was the first one. My pork chop might be more famous, yeah. And the cracklins put me on the map. But I didn't invent any of those dishes. Of course, I didn't invent the pork chop. But that braised lamb neck over black-eyed peas with pickled fennel is something that I truly did create. It was truly one of the better things I've ever done. Yeah. And it is my signature, because like, that would be Isaac's signature, the damn braised lamb neck.
That's what I was thinking when you mentioned it. I was like, you don't like this question, but also you're going to say it's the braised lamb neck. Yeah, you're right.
And there are, like I said, there are several dishes throughout. There's a wonderful elk dish on the menu I have right now that I did take from Top Chef, that I did create on there. And there's a crab claw recipe that I tweaked off of my father's ceviche recipe. And my grandmother, the couvion that's on the menu right now, is her dish. That's my grandmother Toups. And I know the audience can't see this, but it's a picture of my grandmother holding up a giant catfish, which she caught in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
And you see the pond in the background.
I do.
And you see the barn. The barn has a big T for Toups, dilapidated swing set you got to have. So I literally grew up in Cajun country. Swimming, fishing, catching fish, crawfish, oysters, hunting, and all that. And I thought that, well, this is normal. This is normal. Everybody has pig roast, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has boiled crawfish during the season. Everybody gets oysters out the water and shucks them, right? Well, it turns out, no.
No, they don't.
So I grew up with this rich culinary
Yeah.
Cajun upbringing that I just thought was normal. And so it wasn't until I moved out and I'm like, oh, what do y'all eat? What does your mom cook? My mom doesn't cook. I'm so sorry. Your dad cooks? He doesn't cook either. Do you starve? So,
one of the interviews I did before coming over here, and they're like, "So you having a crackling over there or nah?" That was literally what I was asked. I was like, "Tell me more about this crackling." It's like, you got to talk to him about the crackling.
Yeah.
So your crackling precedes you, sir.
thank you. And then that's one of those dishes. That's Cajun street food, and it's sold a lot of times in gas stations, and under a big heat lamp. Sometimes even just in a bucket.
Yeah.
And it's not to be confused with chicharron or pork rinds, which are also good, just not crackling.
Yeah.
So a chicharron or a pork rind would be just the skin, dehydrated and fried, very crispy. You've had them before, but the crackling, or in Cajun country, we call them gratin. Gratin. But everywhere else is known as crackling, so we'll just say that. And it's a double fried skin on pork belly. It starts off with a cold render. I've gone through many explanations. It's in the book. I've got a YouTube video about it, but you still won't be able to reproduce it. It's that technical. And the technical thing about it is literally just 2 ingredients to start. We start off cold lard with cold skin on pork belly, and we render that down slow at first and then faster for about 45 minutes to an hour until the skin starts to pop. And then we remove those from the fat, we cool those down, and then we deep fry them in peanut oil at 400 to order. So that's why they're the best in the round, because I don't fry them until you order them. And then I hit them with my, we call it crack spice, because you say cracklins enough times, it ends up being crack. You won't hear me say fire order cracklins. You'll hear me fire crack. You won't hear me say fire order a boudin. You'll hear fire booty. Fire booty crack is something I say 10 times a night, and it makes me laugh every single time.
Me laugh right now.
Booty crack.
That's 100%. My partner is here. I know she's laughing at me because this is literally what I talk about every night. It's like, yeah, man, it's a booty crack episode we're doing right now.
Totally. This is the booty crack episode now.
So you've mentioned it before, and this is like, I got 2 more questions, and then we'll be in the rapid fire with the lanyard part of the podcast.
You're breaking up the words. You said it right.
Thank you. So, just, tapping on, Top Chef a little bit, like, how would you say, like, it's really, like, impacted, like, your career, like, that experience going through that sort of process? How did that impact your career?
It definitely got me a lot more exposure. I mean, that's national television, and I was treated very well in the show, and I love the show. I've gone back and do some little side projects, Top Chef amateurs and whatnot, and little side gigs and whatnot. But boy, it just puts you on blast. And I don't know if this predates the when I went on Top Chef, it really blew me up. I had a little Cajun restaurant, and it was doing good and it was doing fine, but I never had to worry about filming the restaurant up again for years after that. And it helped get me a cookbook deal and helped me get other television deals. It probably helped me get this little podcast and whatnot. So I had a TV show on Food Network. I've had a bunch of other little small shows. I've got some paid gigs. Those are nice. Yeah. A couple little sponsorships, and those things still keep coming in. Probably all from just like that season of Top Chef. So what I tell to other chefs who are hesitant about doing silly TV stuff, and it is silly TV stuff. All these competition shows, they're all silly TV. Doesn't mean they're bad for you. People like to watch this stuff. And yes, it's weird, and people will be weird, but it can also get you to a certain level to where, like, I now own this restaurant, and I now own the building as well. And all the loans have been paid off. So that helps you out with your brand. Yes, doing TV is weird. Boy, I will admit 100%. And I had one up on everybody because I got this thing you can't buy, you can't earn. It's personality.
You have a lot of it.
Yeah, I can't turn it off. That's the problem. If you call me up and said, Isaac, hey, we want to do something serious, I'm like, no, call Thomas Keller. You want to do something serious? Hey, Isaac, I got a show for this. Like, this jackass chef goes on and lights stuff on fire. Well, you call the right guy.
I'm here for you.
Yeah, because I'm this way on TV and I'm this way on podcasts. I'm this way, in a truck. Eating catfish and drinking a beer with you. I'm the same guy. So I've always been this guy. I get it from my dad. It's kind of a family trait, which is wild. I say what I like, and these days people like that.
Yeah.
People like it when I make an off-color joke or use some curse words or say something just silly that flew in my head. They're like, "We love that, Isaac. Keep going." I'm like, "Really?" Because being a smartass in high school wasn't really great.
Because it's authenticity. It is. It's a thing where when we started, is like I always try to find my way into getting into the conversation. And especially, I think, in doing it in this sort of capacity, doing it in the space. If this was on Zoom, not the same, right? It's
Right.
doing it in the space is like, oh, you just activated. I noticed when you activated at one point. I was like, oh, okay, he doesn't know who I am. Oh, now there he is. Here he is. Here's Isaac.
Yeah.
So this is the last question I got for you. Last real question. I'm very interested in this concept on home, right? Like what is home? How do we bring it with us when we leave that land that we were from, that land that we have that connection with? When you visit somewhere else, when you leave where you're at, how do you bring home with you?
I just bring all that mentality that, I grew up Cajun country, 2 hours west of here. There's already a good bit of Cajun in New Orleans, but everywhere I go, I just try to be myself. I hold doors open for women. If I come over to your house, I'm bringing something to eat, or I bring you something to drink. Yeah. There's no planet where I break one of those social norms that I grew up with. And the same thing with hey, end of the night, let's put on some music and let's do a little dancing, because that's what what I was raised. Oh, hey, let's have a get together every Sunday, because that's how I was raised. So I try to keep every little thing that I was raised upon with me to this day and to wherever I go, and extend it with friends and tell those stories and tell those Cajun jokes and have that Cajun sensibility. You know what? Let's go sit on the porch and play a little guitar. I can't play worth a shit. Who cares? No one does. Right. Let's have those conversations. And small talk is very Southern, and gift giving is very Southern, and celebrating. We love to throw a party. Mm-hmm. We got a festival every weekend for the next 6 months. We got Jazz Fest, we got French Quarter Fest, we got Sashmo Fest, we got Oyster Fest, we got sushi. We love to throw a party. We love to have an AM drink. It's called brunch.
I tried to do that. I tried to go in there. It's like, I'm going to a person's place. I consider this a studio visit. It's customary for me. I got to bring the person something.
Right.
They've invited me to their space.
Yeah, I got me a cool ass hoodie, which I love. Thank you. So
it should turn into a cutoff, because it's hot as shit down here. So, thank you. And I want to hit you with the rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire. I love these actually.
Let's make it happen. I'm gonna remove that first one. What is your favorite animal?
Favorite animal, the mantis shrimp. It can see 16 million colors. It can punch through glass.
I love it. Mine's is an alligator.
Nice. I got one tattoo on my back. I'll show you later.
That's great. What celebrity would you want to cook for that maybe you haven't, and what would you want to cook for them?
Dead or alive?
Either. Dealer's choice.
Julia Childs. Julia Childs is one of those, those figures I never got to meet, but just her bringing the culinary world to TV and her mental aspect of cooking and her ideas, and just like what you hear about her and the shows they have about her, and you just see her and she's full of life. And I would want to serve her my grandmother's couvillon, which we talked about, because that's like the real Cajun dish that that also bridges the gap from French to Cajun. And it's you're able to tell a story. It's like it starts with the French roux, but down here we hit it with the Southern seafood, coalesces to make this beautiful dish. And we also add the crab fat rice, which I invented, to really kind of round it out. Like French grandmother me, and to Miss Julia Childs with a stiff gin drink. Love it. Because she loved that gin.
And I love the thing that you mentioned there, the storytelling component about it. Like, this is facilitating the storytelling, right? Like, I'm throwing up the questions, you're just answering, you're weaving a story within it. And I like that when people are talking about the work that they're doing, whether it be, I had to interview someone earlier from New Orleans School of Ballet, right? And she was talking about dance as a storytelling mechanism, and you just described food as a storytelling mechanism in that particular scenario. So it's always great to see how those things kind of connect through creativity.
Sounded good when you said it, dang.
I try. What is the weirdest dish you think you've ever made?
The weirdest dish I ever made was a confit chicken gizzard salad. Now, I made a warm ham hock vinaigrette, and I poured that over spinach to wilt the spinach a little bit, chopped egg, shaved red onion, confit chicken gizzards, and toasted pistachios. Probably one of the better salads I've ever made in my life. Could not give it away. Ham hock vinaigrette and chicken gizzards. And to the normal person, even the experimental person was like, yo, I don't know, man. I just don't know.
You went a little left, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I might have to try and bring it back, because it was my favorite salad I ever made. Yep. The staff liked it. My wife liked it, because my wife, if she doesn't like it, will tell me. It was delicious. I had food critics taste it. They were like, this is amazing. Couldn't give one away. So that's probably the wildest thing I've ever cooked.
That'll put me in a spot where they don't have vision. I always do that.
Right.
Whenever something like, they don't have vision. They're these Philistine palates.
Right. My whole deal was like, did you taste it? Did you taste it? Mm-hmm. Shut up.
Last rapid fire question. For someone that knows absolutely nothing about Cajun food, what would the entry point be for you in terms of like because it's about taste, it's about flavor. What would be that entry point dish for someone that, like, I know nothing, I'm skeptical, I know nothing about Cajun food?
A linka boudin. A hot linka boudin on a piece of white bread with nothing else on it. Because the white bread at this point is the napkin. It's the holder, because boudin is a cooked sausage. Sorry, they're all cooked sausage, but it's cooked beforehand with pork butt and liver. I use chicken liver. Traditionally, it's pork liver. And then it's mixed with rice, green onions, cayenne pepper, garlic, and then it gets piped into a linka boudin, a linka sausage, and then it gets steamed off. And you get it hot. And it's delicious. It's almost like savory pudding. It's got this wonderful, that might be off-putting right there. Savory pudding, Isaac, you lost me. But it's wonderful because it's spicy, it's delicious, it's rich, and you can eat it for lunch, and you just wipe your face with the white bread and finish eating that. Drink a beer, drink a beer while you're doing it. I won't tell that you're on lunch break.
That's great. And that's it, actually. So I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
Of course.
And I want to invite and encourage you to tell the fine folks, the listeners, where they can come here to the Meatery to follow you, all of that good stuff. The floor is yours.
This is Isaac Toups, chef, owner, janitor, bouncer at Toups Meatery. Instagram handle, Toups Meatery. You come see us in Mid-City. We've been here 10 years. Best food and cracklin this Saturday at Chafalaya. Love you guys.
So there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Chef Isaac Toups for coming on to the podcast and chopping it up with me and indulging the questions. And I'm Rob Lee, saying there's art, culture, and delicious food. Just get the crackling. Get all of it. Just come down. You just got to look for it.